Walk over to your kitchen garbage can right now and lift the lid. Breathe in once, then let it fall shut again. That smell, the one that seems to arrive overnight during the warm months and cling to the air long after you have walked away, is something nearly every household fights through the summer, and you are not alone in losing the battle. Most people respond to it in exactly the same way. They reach under the sink, pull out a can of scented spray, and fog the room until the kitchen smells like artificial lavender resting on top of something rotten. But before we fix it, you need to understand what you are actually smelling, because the reality is stranger and far more useful than anything printed on that aerosol can. You have been told the bin is dirty. You have been told it needs another scrub, another rinse, another wipe with a stronger cleaner. The assumption feels obvious. It is also wrong. What rises out of that can in July is not grime in any ordinary sense, and it does not respond to elbow grease the way you expect. It is living chemistry, multiplying quietly in the heat, generating new smell faster than you can wash the old smell away. It is not dirt, it is decay. Now consider what most homes do about it, because the standard response is where the real waste begins. The shelves are full of products built around a single promise, which is that a pleasant fragrance can cancel an unpleasant one. Scented sprays, plug-in diffusers, perfumed liners, gel beads in little plastic tubs, each of them designed to layer a manufactured scent over the air in your kitchen. Read the back of one of those aerosol cans sometime. You will find warnings about inhalation, cautions about use in enclosed spaces, and ingredient lists carrying names like butoxydiglycol and various ethoxylated compounds that most people could not pronounce, let alone explain. These products do not remove the source of the odor. They sit on top of it. You would not throw a tablecloth over a grease fire and call the fire handled, yet coating your kitchen air with fragrance while the rot continues underneath became the standard approach in almost every home. The smell always returns within hours, and the reason it returns is the part the label will never tell you. Masking is not removing. Here is what is actually happening inside that bin, and once you understand it, the entire problem changes shape. When food scraps break down, especially protein from meat, fish, and dairy, bacteria feed on them and release a family of compounds called amines. Two of them carry the worst of the load, and they have names that sound almost too fitting. The first is putrescine, the second is cadaverine. They are the molecules of rot itself, the same signature chemistry that announces decay anywhere in nature. And your nose is exquisitely tuned to detect them at tiny concentrations because for most of human history, smelling them meant danger. That sharp, sweetish, gut-turning note you catch when you raise the lid is not abstract filth. It is a specific chemical telegram from the bacteria currently dividing in your trash. Now, bring heat into the picture, because heat is the accelerant. Warmth speeds up bacterial activity dramatically, so the same scraps that would sit quietly in December turn into an odor factory in August. The bacteria multiply faster, they consume the scraps faster, and they pump out putrescine and cadaverine faster. That is why the can seems fine for most of the year and then betrays you the moment the temperature climbs. This is also where an old set of solutions, refined over generations in a place that knows humid summers intimately, becomes worth your attention. Japanese households, working for centuries with small kitchens, limited storage, and long stretches of heavy summer humidity, developed quiet, low-cost ways to manage kitchen odor without a single chemical spray. The methods were never about perfume. They were about chemistry, even when the people using them had no idea they were doing chemistry. 3 principles sit underneath everything that follows: neutralizing the odor compounds, absorbing them out of the air, and stopping the decay before it can ever begin. Fix the molecule, not the air. Let us start with the simplest tool, the one already sitting in most kitchens, the one that costs about $1. Baking soda, known in the chemistry world as sodium bicarbonate, is mildly alkaline. The amines and the various acidic byproducts of decomposition are part of what makes the smell so pungent, and an alkaline powder works against acidic compounds directly through chemical reaction rather than simply hiding them. It does not perfume the air. It changes the chemistry of what is in the air. The method is plain. Make sure the inside of the bin is completely dry, then dust a thin, even layer of baking soda across the bottom, underneath the liner if you use one. You are looking for a light covering, like flour scattered across a cutting board, not a thick drift. Refresh it about once a week. If the powder starts clumping into damp little lumps, that is a signal that moisture is pooling in the base of the bin, so empty it, dry it fully, and start the layer again. If it still looks dry and loose after several days, it is still working and can stay. $1 buys you a box that lasts for weeks of this. No fragrance, no mask, no recurring trip down the cleaning aisle. But baking soda is only the first layer, and the deeper methods are where the Japanese approach pulls ahead of anything you will find in a spray bottle. Consider green tea leaves, which most homes throw away without a second thought. Use tea leaves, dried out and then sprinkled into the bottom of the bin. Do something genuinely clever. Green tea is rich in compounds called catechins, and catechins bind to volatile amines, the very molecules responsible for that rotten note. The tea does not cover the smell, it captures it. Save the spent leaves from your morning cup. Let them dry on a saucer until they are no longer wet, and scatter a small handful across the base of the bin alongside the baking soda. This is also why a bowl of used tea leaves left in a closed refrigerator quietly cuts odor in the same way. Now move one step deeper to a material that looks like a simple lump of black charcoal and behaves like a sponge for smell. Binchotan is a traditional Japanese charcoal fired at very high temperatures until its internal structure becomes riddled with microscopic pores. That vast hidden surface area traps odor molecules out of the air through adsorption, meaning the molecules stick to the surface of the charcoal rather than floating freely in your kitchen. Tuck a piece into the bin and it will keep working for weeks. Rinse it, let it dry in the sun, and it revives, ready to absorb again. One piece can serve for months before it needs replacing. This is why you find binchotan tucked into refrigerators, closets, and shoe cabinets across Japan, doing silently what an electric air freshener pretends to do at a fraction of the cost. But the most powerful method of all is also the most counterintuitive, and it attacks the problem at its root rather than its result. The reason the bin smells is decomposition, and decomposition needs warmth to proceed. Take that warmth away, and the entire process simply stops. In Japanese homes during the hot months, the wet, smelly scraps, the fish skins, the meat trimmings, the dairy, do not go into the kitchen bin at all until collection day. They go into the freezer. A small container or a sealed bag in the freezer holds the scraps at a temperature where bacteria cannot multiply and decay cannot begin. On the morning the garbage is collected, the frozen scraps come out and go straight into the bin on their way out the door. There is no window of time for the rot to start, which means there is no putrescine, no cadaverine, and nothing for any spray to mask. No rot, no smell, nothing at all. Now look back at the shelf of products this replaces, because the contrast is the whole point. The scented liners, the plug-in diffusers, the daily spritz of aerosol, all of them share the same flaw. They raise the fragrance load in your home while leaving the source completely untouched. The bacteria keep dividing, the amines keep forming, and the smell keeps coming back, which is precisely the business model. A product that solved the problem permanently would only sell once. A product that masks the problem for a few hours sells again next week, and the week after that, all summer long. You were not buying a solution. You were renting a smell, one canister at a time. This is also where the numbers stop being abstract. A canister of scented spray runs several dollars and empties within weeks under daily use, so a single warm season can quietly cost you $20, $30, even $40 in fragrance that never fixes anything. A box of baking soda costs roughly $1 and lasts for weeks. Used tea leaves are free, salvaged from a cup you were already drinking. A piece of binchotan is a one-time purchase that lasts for months and revives with a rinse. The freezer method costs nothing at all beyond a container you already own. Pennies stacked against a habit that drains your wallet every single summer. The routine that ties it together is light enough to disappear into your week. Once a week, refresh the thin layer of baking soda and wipe the inside of the bin dry. Through the hottest stretch of the year, send the wet scraps to the freezer the moment they appear rather than letting them sit. About once a month, swap out the tea leaves and rinse the charcoal in the sun. That is the entire system, and it works because each piece addresses a different stage of the same chemistry, from preventing decay to neutralizing what forms, to absorbing what escapes. Results will vary with how much wet waste your home produces, but the underlying chemistry stays consistent in every kitchen. Now walk back to that same garbage can, the one you opened at the start, the one that felt like an unsolvable summer curse. Lift the lid again in your mind. The dread that used to live in that small motion is gone, because you understand now that the smell was never dirt and never needed a stronger spray. It was decay, and decay answers to chemistry, not perfume. This is not about covering the smell. It is about refusing to let it form. The cleanest bin is the one that never gets the chance to rot. If this changed how you think about that smell drifting out of your kitchen, subscribe, because the next investigation looks at the sponge sitting beside your sink and what is actually growing inside it right now.